All right, so let's go to the candidates part of this. Let's hear some names. Who do we think would work well for Mississippi State?
More than specific name, I think you have to look at the kind of coach you need. Like you can't do the let's hire a Saban or Kirby assistant model and then try to build our own version of Georgia or Alabama, because no matter how effective they are at it, you are never going to have the same level of talent as Alabama or Georgia. So you're really capping yourself at, of how far or how well you can do. You have to go the same kind of mode you went with Mullen and with Leach. You have to find somebody who brings a certain style or identity that can give you an advantage at the margins, that maybe can give you a chance to compete against the other teams that are more on your tier level in the league. So, I mean, I know Willie Fritz has been bandied about as a possibility. I think that's the type of hire, or, somebody along those same lines, where you're not just trying to out recruit everybody. You've got to out scheme. You've got to out develop guys. You've got to take raw, uncut 2-star, 3-star gems and turn them into valuable SEC caliber players. So that's what you need to look for. Do not just hire the guy and say, all right, we're going to go out there and recruit and we're going to see what happens.
So a couple things that I wrote down before getting the names, and I agree with Tom. I think you have to know, no doubt about it, you have to run a unique, difficult to prep for offense, because the goal is to try to steal 2 SEC wins a year, right? By tricking people, by having people overlook you, by running something that's a little funky. So when the team that's not a Bama, but so when an A&M has an off week of practice because they think you're a walkover and they don't take that stuff seriously, and they're not investing the time in the iPads to really watch what you do, and you scheme open 2 wide open touchdowns because they didn't take you seriously, and your defense holds on, and you're able to go 2-6 in the league, right? I have to have a coach that can scheme stuff open and be a unique, difficult prep. If you're running stuff that's real similar to what everybody else has run at Mississippi State, you're doing it wrong, period. Doesn't mean you can't go defensive coach. But if you go defensive coach, you have got to be sure that this guy embraces offense and will run something. I think it was either Jason Kirk or Connolly who kind of coined this phrase of there's David strategies and Goliath strategies. And if you try to run a Goliath strategy at a David school, which Mississippi State is, you will get your ass beat. And they do. Look this year. So you have got to run a David-style strategy for a David-style school. So, with that said, I think John Sumrall would make some sense because he's at least embraced offense at Troy. I think Jamie Chadwell would make a hell of a lot of sense.
Yeah.
He's a Southern guy. He has done underdog strategies. It's not like you recruit your butt off, talent-wise at Coastal. He wins everywhere he goes. And I think he understands how to run a program. I think Tom's point on Willie Fritz is really well done. I don't want anybody who's coming from a background of always having better players. I kind of need you to have a track record of winning with lesser guys.
They need their Lance Leipold. That's what Kansas finally went and did, and look what it's doing for them. That's what Mississippi State needs to find, somebody who can do that.
Yes.
So is Lance Leipold going to have to lay out another
I'm staying here forever?
Yeah, it was well, Michigan State, I'm staying here forever, but Mississippi State, I don't know.
If I'm power ranking jobs, I would have Michigan State ranked higher than Mississippi State. So I don't know.
And that's not to say Glenn Schumann couldn't work at Georgia, but what's Glenn Schumann's track record of working with lesser players and overcoming obstacles? Do we know he's going to embrace offense and hire a unique offensive scheme? I'd have to really be assured of that in the interview. That's why I'm a little skeptical of some of these young D coordinator names.
And this is a completely different topic, but part of the reason, it's not the primary reason, but it is a small reason why Alabama was so successful in the SEC was that all the Davids kept trying to be the Goliath. They kept trying to hire the Goliath guy who could not compete with it. So it is a process question that a lot of SEC ADs have gotten wrong over the last 15, 20 years. And it's a huge decision to make. And that's what, thankfully, if you're Mississippi State, there is, proof of concept in that you had Leach, you had Mullen, you took this route and it was successful. Do that again. Not saying it's automatic that he's going to work, but you need to take that approach.
Can I get reckless for just a little bit? Because I just think kind of funny.
Please.
What if Sean Lewis got demoted because he got caught getting that feeler call with the with the, what is it called? The search firm. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. What if the search firm was doing the back channels for Mississippi State? Because is Sean Lewis the hire that you thought you were getting with Joe Moorhead?
Could be. I mean,
Could
Kent
be.
State is absolutely a David program.
Right.
Mhm.
I mean, there's a pretty good argument Kent State's the worst D1 program over like the last 50 years. And he has almost all of their best seasons like that. I don't know how high you would be on their list, but I think you at least need to call him. Like he did a really good. He made it to the MAC title game at Kent State.
Mhm.
The
And
other
he comes fresh with, he comes like complete with an identity. Like you
Right.
know exactly what he's trying to do. It's not like he's going to go there and try to figure things out. You're going to go fast, you're going to spread things out, and you're going to present unique problems to your opponents that they're not used to dealing with on an every week basis that they have to figure out. A lot of the teams will figure it out because they're really good, but not everybody will.
Would you call Paul Johnson?
Yes.
Hell yes. Run the triple. Do it.
Would you call Rich Rod?
Yes.
Yes.
I think I would too.
And I think that there is a 100% year over year higher likelihood that Rich Rodriguez, who's currently at Jacksonville State, is going to take the job before Paul Johnson, who probably just teed off his morning 18 at Grandfather Mountain. Well, actually, Grandfather normally closes down by the time we get to it's like the last week of October, Halloween. I mean, it's mountain golf. You can't be open all winter. It's not good for the grass. But he's got another track, I'm sure, to be able to get in on.
Fritz may be your Paul Johnson, right?
Yeah.
A guy who can give you a good 10 years if it works out well. Like is not immediately looking to stepping stone job. It runs a unique offense, exceedingly competent as a guy that runs a program. That would actually make a hell of a lot of sense.
Especially if he's looking for just one giant payday to finish it off, because like he's had success everywhere he's gone. He's got Tulane as one of the better group of 5 programs in the country. They might win the American again this year. You're not going to have that kind of success at Mississippi State, but Mississippi State can pay you more than Tulane can. And
also, I'm so sorry that we just continue to bag on the American Athletic Conference, because we are going to get to that. I mean, this title race is awesome. It is super interesting, but Tulane, compared to where my stock price analysis was at the end of last season to where it is right now, it's still at the top of the standings the way it was. It does not feel like it's the same team. And the future of being in that conference, if you're Willie Fritz and you're looking around at the landscape and it's kind of seeming like the separation, but the dividing line in the conferences is getting a little bit thicker as we're going to have some conference consolidation here coming up in the next year. I would think, to your point, you give it a run at Mississippi State, get a nice retirement plan, go ahead and see how it goes from there. But that might be better than trying to, scrap it out with UTSA every single year, hoping that you're going to be able to get that one spot in a 12-team playoff that's going to be reserved. Because if we do move to the 5+7, which that would be my prediction instead of the 6+6 as it was first presented, all of those available spots, whether it's 1 through 4 and then all of the at-larges, are going to be going to teams outside of the American Athletic Conference. Tulane's going to have one shot to be able to make that playoff, and it's going to have to win its conference to get there. And not that Mississippi State gets you anywhere closer to the playoff, but I think that avenue in terms of what your ceiling is going to be with the Green Wave, I would understand using now as an opportunity to jump off the ship.
Also, the chat is asking, and I'm glad they are, because we haven't brought him up yet. But I think the reason why we have not brought up bringing back Dan Mullen yet is, like, at least the people I talk to, they're not really sure how, like, is Dan Mullen trying to jump back just for any job? Like, apparently Dan Mullen's son is a really good golfer, and he may just enjoy doing, like, the dad mode and getting to see his son play, really competitive high school golf and get to do some.
I didn't know Matt Berry was his son.
Because I asked somebody about this, and they're like, I mean, Mullen would make a ton of sense, but the coach has to want it too. Maybe he does. I'm not trying to speak for Dan Mullen. The guy I talked to is not Dan Mullen's agent, but he's like, you do know his son is, like, legitimately a good golfer, and he's getting to do, like, full on dad mode with that. And, like, there's something to that, man. Like, Dan Mullen's rich as hell. He can take 3 years off. He's really good on ESPN. And if he wants to jump back in, he jumps back in for a hell of a lot better job than Mississippi State at some point, I would assume.
Yeah, I don't know Dan Mullen, but I know people around him who have told me that he is very happy doing TV.
And like I said, playing golf with Matt Berry and every single location before
and expensing it by using a 2-minute segment on the show or during the
Ocean
game.
course. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So here's the plan. The 8th actually comes back up by the clubhouse. Just bring the cameras down to get a quick shot of us on the green, and you're all good. That's an expense.
Social team, forward it on, make it look real busy. Yeah. We also probably have to consider other jobs which could open, which would compete against Mississippi State, right? Duke,
Arkansas.
If Arkansas pulls the trigger and like goes back and calls Gus home, like I think most coaches would rather have UCF than Mississippi State because it's going to pay kind of similar, and you can win a lot more at UCF than you can Mississippi State. Like if you're looking to do the springboard thing, yeah. UNC, maybe? I don't know. They won again.
Do you think, speaking of Gus, different job, do you think Gus makes sense for A&M?
I think Gus is a pretty competent coach, man. And I think he would do well there. I don't think he's sexy enough for A&M.
Yeah. I think that's A&M's problem is they're too.
They can't make a sensible hire.
Yeah. It's got to be sexy.